Hey, I thought this was at least a little more fitting, right? Good morning. Sounds like what is happening right now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the blog here on this Friday, the final hours of spring 2025. You're right, Angela. Nightmare Before Christmas inspired is actually where this is from. So there you go. I'll keep changing up every day. You never know. You never know what next week will bring. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, we're into the last, actually almost 12 hours away from summer officially beginning. I know everyone's always saying it's the first day of summer. Technically tomorrow will be the first day of summer. We're only going to get an hour officially of summer for this calendar day later on tonight. But no, it's, the fine line of details. No one really cares about that. For all intents and purposes, yes, it is arriving. And today into tomorrow will be the longest stretches we'll have here of daylight as well. So we're really on gear here for a decent surge of heat coming our way. This will certainly be one of the earlier rounds of heat we've had probably since about, I would say, 2012 was the last time I can recall a surge of heat to this limit and length of time. Nothing record-breaking, but it was early in the season. Most of them are fairly late that we have around here. In fact, last year, it was the last week of August into September before we really got into the core of the heat of the summer. Although last year, the last few days of August, we made it to 102 degrees. So we were certainly way hotter for last summer. So it happens every year, but it's when it happens early that it gets a little more attention, especially if you get a snapshot of this and then say it doesn't come back again for a while, because we will likely get into a stormy pattern. So we'll see if it bounces back later on in the summer season or not. Anyway, we'll get into all those details. I'll cover the expected heat indices. Alerts have already started to go out for this, so we'll talk about that. And I do think there is some question on how we're going to get back into the stormy pattern for the end of next week, but signs are growing that we're going to certainly get into that. It's just a matter of how and certainly when. All right, so we'll break that down. You guys are welcome to chime in. You already are on the social media side, as always. Facebook, hello to Cheryl. Hello to Chuck. How you doing, Chuck? Hello to Jonathan. It was 80 in November last year. Yeah, we've had warm weather. We had, was it 2019, right before the pandemic? We had mid-90s all the way through the first week of October, which that was miserable that year, right? I remember just being so irritated at the heat because it was October and the leaves were trying to change, but they couldn't because it was a drought. It was hot, so everything just became brown and died off basically. So anyway, let's hope we don't have a repeat of that, because last fall was awesome. Last fall was beautiful. I really like last fall. But we'll cover that and get you guys set for New Year questions, because I know a lot of you have outdoor plans. But at least with heat, the good news is that it's easy to track and it's very slow evolving. So it's nothing urgent that takes place, which is good. All right, let's get you outside and show you the current view, which is, actually I had the camera up. It was over into downtown, but we'll come back to that. 75 in Louisville now, 77 as you head toward Marion County. Got 74 in E-Town. Hello, Mumfordville, it's 73. And about 76. Give your town a shout out. Let us know where you're at if you're watching right now, so I have an idea. Most of you I know from over the years where you're located. Just curious if we have any newcomers. And then if you're new, type 1 if you're new. If you've been here every single day, type 3. And if you just want to tell me you've been here every single day, you type 3, and I'll believe you. Brian, it's been hot inside the hub there at UPS. So yeah, those ramps there, we hear about that a lot. It gets really, really hot. I hear my mom worked at GE, and my mom and my dad did. So I used to always hear about how tough it was working in GE, because all they had was just fans that were blowing all the time. And I think it's the same right at Ford. So it takes a toll on our assembly lines in the area. Lanesville, hello. Frankfurt, Albert's over in Frankfurt. All right, we got a lot of OGs in the blog. Okay, let's get into the current setup, because we do have sunny skies now, but there is a complex of thunderstorms to the northwest of us that is producing severe weather into portions of Iowa. And you're like, oh no, that's heading right into Chicago and it's diving southeast. That's not good, right? Well, here's the thing, and this is a plus, is the air over the Ohio River Valley is quite dry where it counts. It still feels humid probably when you walk outside, but in the layers of the atmosphere where it counts, moisture is missing, or at least lower quantities are there. So this does not have a chance to survive as it dives southeast. Now, the cloud cover is different. The cloud cover can survive in the upper layers. So we have accounted for an increase in clouds this afternoon, could even go into a high overcast for a while, especially for Indiana. And that may save you a couple degrees. Otherwise, if you hold on to the sun the longest here today, or you end up with a thinner bank of those clouds that drop in from Iowa, you have a chance to get awful close to 90 or even touch 90. But this will be the difference of a degree or two. Nothing major, but at least they'll give you a little bit of shade later on this afternoon if you need some to take care of anything you have to outside. Look at that fog this morning. You can see that on the visible satellite. Boy, it's lined up exactly into the Cumberland Plateau, into Tennessee, right where the rain fell last night, and the ground hasn't had a chance to heat up yet and dry out. Southern Kentucky had some fog this morning, but this area went straight from a rainy scenario, then cleared out just before sunrise, so the ground was still wet. And now when that happened, the fog just easily formed right there into Tennessee. What a pretty shot that is. But it's eroding away quickly as the sun gets higher up. So this will be gone here soon, but I always love that visible satellite. All right, we do have several heat alerts that are out, not just in our region, but look how expansive they are from the Gulf all the way to the Canadian border. We see this a lot, but it's just nice to see a different type of alert, right? But they're all different colors, and this is where it gets a little weird on heat alerts. They're very similar to winter storm warnings in the idea that they're all climate based on your region. So it's different criteria based on where you're living at. So you end up with a wild range of colors here because some regions are going to have a little bit higher of a ranking or higher threat level or category into an alert than you may realize. So let me explain. First off, the magenta color is the excessive heat warning or extreme heat warning. They call these now. They changed the name last year from excessive to extreme. Technicality, but anyway, so that is in the fuchsia color, and then you get into the dark red, which is kind of a burgundy kind of color. That is the same thing, but it's in a watch form, and then the advisory is in the very pale orange. If only we had just the basic primary colors, it would be a lot easier for me. But anyway, because I'm nearly colorblind, to be honest. But the watches and warnings are same as severe weather, though. You know, watch is get ready. Warning means it's likely to happen. So you have typically you get watches that'll be on the edges of a heat wave, and then the core of it will be already into a warning status or an advisory, like a winter weather advisory would be. So again, technicalities on how this all looks, but at least want to take a moment to explain because we can't do this on TV in enough time without trying to be overly confusing. But you can see where the metros really certainly stand out. Look at St. Louis is gearing up for a separate issue for them for the metro. And Louisville doesn't do this often, and I think they should. I think Louisville should have its own bubble of criteria compared to outlying areas. I don't think it's uniform in wave country at all. In fact, I think in general, in this type of situation, those of you in Kentucky, central Kentucky, E-Town, and in Marion County, you rarely get to the levels on the forecast numbers on heat compared to the Louisville Metro and even southern Indiana. It is a bit different, and it's because of the environment in central Kentucky. A lot of valleys and hills compared to other areas, but it is so green, and you've had the highest amount of rainfall in the recent weeks in that area of central Kentucky, and therefore you're going to just be a little slower to catch on to this heat wave. So it's a tough one for the Weather Service to try to draw up these alerts, and I think they're going to have to based on what we're seeing, especially for the metro. So we'll see if they draw one just for the metro or not. But anyway, we do have some that are out for some of you watching right now. Let me zoom in. We have a heat advisory for West Kentucky right up against our counties. Does not include any of our counties on the western side. Indianapolis did throw out a heat advisory for Lawrence, Jackson, and Jennings. Their criteria, by the way, is nearly identical to Louisville, and that is 105 for either an actual or a feels like temperature for 2 hours or longer. 105. If it goes to 110, it goes to a warning status, which is unlikely right now. So the 105 I do think is reachable. So that's why you are under the advisory for our Indiana counties. But we also have Carroll County that is under the extreme heat watch. Your criteria is based on the National Weather Service in Wilmington, Ohio, and it is lower. The threshold for just an advisory is 100 for either actual or feels like. And when it comes to the excessive or extreme heat warning criteria, it's 105. So you guys will likely always have a category higher in level than the West Service and Wave Country to heat wave. It's your levels are the lowest I've found so far in our area will be just Carroll County. All right. So you go all the way up to Michigan. They even change it even more. Their criteria is low, about 100 degrees, as you might suspect, but they add in the idea that if the thermometer doesn't drop below 80, that also qualifies as an extreme heat warning, the combination of the two. And that, which I think is interesting, and I think that is very important because in Louisville, there is a chance that around the airport area, Okolona, Highview, Linview, perhaps toward Taylor Boulevard area, there is a chance that region, even into downtown, may not drop below 80 for a couple of nights. And that is what I think really takes the biggest toll on us, is when you can't get that cooling at all at night, especially on our AC units. They tire out fast. So there's no chance to just kind of gain some ground and reset. So we'll keep an eye on these alerts. I got a feeling that there will at least be heat advisories based on the idea of the 105 number, I think is reachable. So that probably will draw it, I would think, right now along 65 and west. I don't know how they'll handle the central Kentucky area, because I just don't think you guys will get as high of a level there than the rest of us will be. But we'll figure it out. Well, they will. The Weather Service will. It's their job to issue these. But you guys know, hot is hot. I don't think it really matters in the alert, but just want to at least explain what all these colors mean and what you see on your phone when you open it up and you see them listed at the top. You're like, what does that mean exactly? Well, that's what that means. That's how the breakdown goes. Here is at least the numbers coming in from the Euro on what it thinks the heat potential will be. And this is just the feels like temperature. It's got us at 96 tomorrow, 100 on Sunday, 103 Monday, then a little back and forth as we head into Tuesday through Thursday. And I'll explain why I think that's the case. But even into Saturday, still 102, and then it starts to ease down. So either way, it's just the idea this is going to be getting old real fast on a daily basis. So it's going to really tire us out. And I'm going to be talking about snow so many times next week because I can get away with it at this point. No one gets mad at me then. Like, yeah, I keep talking about it. It's fine. What am I missing here? What's going on? Is there conversation? Amanda, look at the hottest of the summer, or do we see heat waves repeating? Well, this is real early in the game. I think we will come back around to this again. And if we dry things out, the drying of the ground is so important. And we're very wet right now. So this one's more about heat index than the actual temperature right now, which is why I'm showing you this and not the actual numbers, because I think this obviously is what we need to prepare for. But this is the bigger story, is the humidity going against us with this one. Later in the summer, we may not have as much of a wet ground. We'll see. I mean, it's been a stormy year. So if that pattern tries to break again and we get more than a week of dry weather at play, then we may end up back into a heat scenario again. But this time around, we won't be as concerned as these numbers. And since the actual numbers will be just as bad and could be the hottest at that point. So it's really about perspective. And I know it gets a little confusing a lot when people look at that, but you have to look at the same thing as wind chill. It's all about what our bodies think it is, and that's what we talk about more. But in a 10-day, you only see the numbers, the actual numbers. And that's for Louisville, by the way, okay, which is because of the highest population area that we have. Let's see. Yeah, nice. Okay, you guys are... Amanda and Sean are going back and forth. You guys can have your own conversation. That's fine. I won't butt in. It seems like a private conversation anyway about heat. Y'all can discuss that and downpours. But you bring up a good point, Amanda and Sean. You're like, okay, well, what about the idea of these downpours? Well, I don't think we need to ignore that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to display the Euro and show you where the rain and storms will be. But I'm adding on here, this is not just generally heat. These are the heights in the upper layers of the atmosphere, but it's the easiest way to see the dome of high pressure. You can really pick it out in that red zone. That is the core, really, of where your heat dome will be. And it's the easiest way to understand it when I display it. So I'll display that, but you also see the rain. This is the ring of fire that we hear so much about because it's a clockwise flow around these highs. So they call it the ring of fire because storms form along it and drop down. And it not exactly comes all the way around again, but it has the appearance of that on the radar and then redevelops and goes back up again. And it just keeps going around and around. But you can still get, in the middle of it, you can still get thunderstorms to pop right under the ridge. It can happen, especially when it comes to localized areas where you have a heat island and it causes just a quick motion of rising the air up. You can get a quick thunderstorm. Louisville is notorious for this. And given the idea the wind flow will be very gentle, but out of the southwest, south and southwest at times, anything that pops over the city next week would impact more of Clark County, Northeast Jefferson County, and into Oldham County. So just be aware if you're in those areas, you may not be directly in Louisville, but because you're so close to the city, anything that would form and pop over the city would drift toward you. If you're south of Louisville, the odds are of anything popping are pretty low, and if anything did, it would be tough for it to drift in your area. But that's the general motion. So just look south if you were to see anything pop. But again, they will be moving very, very slow. There's not a lot of wind here under the dome. So maybe 5 miles per hour is their speed. So they will basically just rain themselves out. But if it's over your garden, then you can get a decent downpour for a while. Anyway, what the Euro is doing, and speaking of that, is that it basically keeps us dry for this weekend, likely into Monday. But then we get into the middle of the week and you get into, like, for example, Tuesday, and you see the ring of fire. It shows up pretty well, right? But you also see right underneath the dome, and a lot of this, it's two things. One is the heat island trying to pop up thunderstorms that drift north. But this is all what we call orographic lift, where it's the mountains, the Appalachians, that are allowing for the air to rise a bit. And then you get thunderstorms only on the part where the wind goes up the mountain. So, and part of the Smoky Mountains, if you have vacation plans there, it's not a zero rain chance. I mean, the mountains may actually help try to generate a thunderstorm, but these would all be limited to the late afternoon for an hour, maybe 2 hours at best, and then they're done. They don't last very long at all, but I don't want you guys to think that because you're under the dome, you're good. Nothing's going to happen. That's not true. You could still get a thunderstorm. It's just that they do not last very long, and they do have a location bias there. Otherwise, the ring of fire is the main show. So when does that break down? Well, this is where the models kind of veer off. We get it to about Wednesday and Thursday. It's not so much the dome is shifting at all. It just tries to flatten on the northern side here. It's not a perfect circle. And because it begins to flatten, some of these thunderstorms that are racing here on the northern part of the ring of fire may have a chance to at least get into the Ohio Valley. Right now, we think it's more of an Illinois, Indiana, Ohio issue, but there is a chance that some could get awful close to our northern sections here for the latter portions of next week into next weekend. I mean, it's very close. When I looked at the finer details a second ago, all the way into next weekend, it was showing thunderstorms and say, this is just an example, it was showing thunderstorms in Scottsburg and heavy rain into Madison, Indiana. But Louisville was 96 degrees with a heat index of 102. So it could be very, very close, and it may not clear you out of the heat wave entirely because this thing's going to fight. Ridges of high pressure like this, they are very stubborn. They're very stubborn. They do not want to break down easily, but they can get weaknesses in them. And usually the northern side is going to be where that will be. So just stay close to us in the forecast as we evolve here for next week for some changes. But the more north you are, the more you are at risk for to be on the weaker side. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let's get right into, I should mention too, the CSU, let me bring this full screen. The severe weather AI module you guys love from Colorado State. Notice, I mean, we're fine here this weekend, but look what it does there for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It tries to put us into at least close to the area into the severe zone, but see how it's blotchy? It's only little patches of the yellow. that indicates just those little small complexes of storms, and it does pick up in the mountains too very well. But it does just at least tell us that that potential is going to be very, very close to us. And it could be, in some cases, we could score a heat busting day if they arrive just close enough to the city, especially, for example, in Louisville, that would knock us out of the heat, at least the mid-90s for like a day. But as soon as, if we miss them the next day, we're back to the mid-90s again. So anyway, that's how it's looking there on the actual numbers from severe side of things. All right, here we go with the 10-day. And we're going to go with 94, 95, 95, 95, 95, 95, 94, 94, 90. Whew. And again, overnight lows, not much relief, upper 70s to around 80 degrees. So, Jacob, I know you need next Friday to be clear for the baseball game at Slugger. Hey, I mean, it really is going to be a matter of the weakness at that point. If those storms cannot reach us yet, if that ridge is still strong, then yeah, it will be hot and dry even on Friday. I do still consider that we get into the end of the month here, into the first few days of July. There is a pretty obvious breakdown that happens, and it gets into a stormy pattern and wet. But it may knock the heat down in a big way. We may get stuck into the, I'd say stuck, but we may get some relief with highs in the lower 80s if that flow ends up working out just right for the holiday. But that's a way off here. All right, we got to get through this heat surge first. All right, any questions I can ask for anyone on this? Hey, Joel, how you doing? Attended the VIP premiere party for the Blue Whale exhibit at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Science tonight. How cool is that? Picking blueberries early tomorrow morning. Hope everyone has a great weekend. What, Joel? I feel very boring now. You got quite the weekend coming your way. I don't think I've ever picked blueberries before. I love blueberries. It's like one of my favorite. I picked strawberries before. We used to go to a place, I don't know if it's still around. It was off Popper Level Road and Fegenbush Lane years ago when I was a kid. Because this is the time, right? June to pick strawberries. Maybe already past time. But the Blue Whale exhibit, that's pretty wild. Angela, considering how long I've known you, I am OG. It's true. I've known Angela. Is it 25 years now? Angela? 24? It's up there. Long time, Angela. Long time. Patty, I love, by the way, that you fit the 100 in there perfectly. When will we get to 100? Well, yeah, the feels like, yeah, we're going to hit that next week, guys. We're going to hit 100 on the feels like. Actual temperature, I don't see it happening in this round. Maybe later in the summer if we dry up. Maybe. Tawana, if it's going to be so hot, I may have to hang out with your turtles in the pond. Well, good luck, Tawana, because they are very stubborn about space, and they will fight you for a lily pad. So that water, it was cool when I was working on it recently, but I'm sure it's going to be very, very warm. But not a bad idea. Maybe I should put my waders on and go get in the water and hang out with Gary and No Name and Michelle. This is, by the way, Harry's weather. My tortoise loves it. This is his thing, his vibe. I don't have to mow anything in my yard because he takes care of it all. He keeps the grass cut, which is nice. Not that I recommend everyone get a tortoise for your yard work, but it is nice to have. But he's a desert species, so this is really nice. And they do love humidity, so oddly enough, they do love it. 22 years. Thanks, Angela. 22. I knew you had the number exact. All right, Crispy, I'll get to your question. Whoops, sorry. Hit the wrong one. Any big severe signals long-term? 4th of July period, that signal does have a spike to it. That's about as far as I can see. I haven't had a chance to get further into the summer season. Now that we're going to be quiet in the days ahead, I will spend more time looking at that. So next week, we'll talk more about long-term and maybe try to get you some preview data for fall. All right, I'll try to talk more about that next week. It's easy to do that when it's quiet. When it's so busy with severe weather, I just can't get to the long term very much, guys. So you guys have been very patient. So thank you. I appreciate that. All right. And Sean, I didn't mean to go by your comment. I hope the heat is somewhat bearable going to Nashville this weekend. Well, Nashville is, yeah, Nashville is going to be, it's going to be hot and humid. And well, as we said at school when I was at Western, we always called it Nash Vegas. All right, guys, you guys have fun. Stay safe, seriously, but have fun. Get out there in the pools. If you don't have to be outside, to stay by the AC and go out in the evenings. I'm sure all the ice cream shops in town are going to be absolutely packed this weekend. I know the Barrel Fun in Highview, where I love to go, always has a long line. I'm sure that'll be the case in the days ahead. You'll be hearing, I'm sure, the Ice Cream Man playing its jingle in your neighborhood as well. So it's a good summer setup. But if you have any yard work, guys, this is not the weather for that. Limit your yard work. I don't care how good a health you're in. It can really take a toll on you. So just kind of put that to the side for a while and enjoy some time with the family, being around the pool, and enjoy your evenings and early mornings especially. All right, I'll stop rambling. Have a good rest of the Friday and enjoy your last hours of spring. And I will see you guys coming up on midday at 11 a.m. Take care.